Hey, what's up, nerds? Let's talk about a children's studio movie from 1979 that involved Anthony Perkins getting shredded by a satanic robot with a garbage disposal hand. Yeah, we're talking about The Black Hole.
I bid you welcome.
The Black Hole was Disney's first foray into a PG rating. It has everything a masterclass in science fiction horror needs. I'm not so sure Disney intended The Black Hole to be an existential horror film, but here we are. The original script had existed since 1970, but you have to think of it as more of a Poseidon adventure in space. It was supposedly about a ship that was a supernova or something like that. It kind of sat on the shelf until 1977 and Star Wars happened.
I'm a real science fiction fan. I've got hundreds of science fiction books at home, and I think this is going to be a science fiction classic.
That started the race to space films. Some of them flops, some of them amazing, and some of them The Black Hole. On the surface, there's a lot of Star Wars influence here, from the cute robot sidekicks to the legions of mindless bad guys that really kind of have terrible aim. But there's more lurking here. Underneath that Star Wars facade is a darker movie. This is what made me love The Black Hole when I was a kid. That and the fact that we could rent it at our local video store, which, back then it was a lot of Black Hole and Tron for me. So I'm sure there'll be a video about Tron someday.
There's a 68.71% chance you're right.
Cute.
The Black Hole is really like if you take a space movie and a gothic horror, like maybe even a Hammer horror, and you smash them together, and then you put a little existential philosophy on top, sprinkle it like little rainbow sprinkles. Yeah, that's what you get when you got The Black Hole. Something unique, weirdly philosophical, and probably never to be repeated, especially by the House of Mouse, because they just like to buy other people's properties now and remake things over and over and over again. So what makes me love The Black Hole so much? Well, first of all, the visual effects are amazing, especially for the time, and they do kind of stand up. You can see the care that went into them. Unlike Star Wars, who kit bashed all their spaceships, each of the models of the ships, the Palomino and the Cygnus for The Black Hole, were made out of machined parts. That means they created these parts out of brass and then assembled the full-size models. The Cygnus models, and there were a few, weighed 200 pounds. They were 12 feet long. Just amazing in size, and it was beautiful. The Cygnus itself has been compared to a cathedral. It also kind of reminds me of like a Victorian era conservatory or the greenhouse, kind of where Colonel Mustard did it with the lead pipe. Part of how they created this effect of the vast size of the Cygnus and even the effect of space with the Black Hole was to use matte paintings. Now, this was a technique back in the day where human beings would actually make a giant painting, and it would cover up part of the background and make things look a lot larger than they were. They could make crowds look bigger. They could make scenery look a lot bigger. Today, they do that digitally, obviously. But back then, you had to actually have somebody paint that, and then you set up the shot so it looked like it was all pieced together. In The Black Hole, they had 150 of these paintings and another 550 effect shots. So to even create the Black Hole itself, they had a visual plate of a whirlpool, and then they had water on top, and they put dye in it, and the whole thing was in a plexiglass case, and it made this weird swirling effect. And it's still amazing to me to this day. I also love the characters. I love a character. That's Maximilian Schell's Dr. Reinhardt. Dr. Reinhardt was the creepiest dude. He's kind of like somebody from a biblical epic.
But what caused that cause?
And then you throw him in there with a little bit of mad scientist. You just let him go crazy a little bit, and that's what you get.
That the end justifies the means.
Yes, it does, Dr. Reinhardt. Yes, it does. The music. I used to listen to the soundtrack in my car when I'd pick my little one up from his daycare. Even to this day, he asks for The Black Hole. The music is haunting when it needs to be. And the music is exciting when it needs to be. It seems like John Barry, the composer, just knew exactly what sprinkles to put in what places to drive the film. And without that music and without the visual effects, you're left with just wooden dialogue and one really good actor. So one thing the black hole has going for it is the mystery and creepiness of it all. The Cygnus is a really big ship. It's already creepy because it looks like an old cathedral. And then we're led to believe that all the inhabitants are robots. We see these humanoid robots walking about. All of them except for Dr. Reinhardt, that is. The mystery deepens as Captain Holland finds a cavernous hallway with crew quarters, and he goes from one to the other. And it's just a very haunting scene. As soon as he is kind of looking through there, he notices he follows some robots and he sees a space funeral where the humanoids are ejecting something into space with all the reverence of a human funeral, he says later on, which, you know, ups the creepiness factor. So meanwhile, Ernest Borgnine's character, Harry Booth, finds a humanoid, one of these humanoid robots that has a limp, and he looks right at it in a garden that's big enough to feed the entire ship if they were all people. But these are robots, right? They're not robots! And the reveal of them being the actual crew, zombified by some sort of futuristic space lobotomy, is one of the best scenes and one of the most horrific in the whole film.
What are you doing?
Of course, after that happens, shit hits the fan, and we hurtle toward the ending of the black hole. Now, there are laser gun fights and goofy robot sayings and bad guys that can't shoot, you know, like a wall in front of them. But the end itself, after all the laser guns, is trippy as hell. It involves the Cygnus being dragged into the black hole, all the humanoids, which we know are humans, all the human zombie robot people, and Dr. Reinhardt and his other robots getting sucked into this hell-like landscape. The crew of the Palomino, the good guys, they climb into a space probe and they are thrust into the black hole as well, but their experience is one that's kind of like traveling through those cathedral hallways. It's very celestial and spiritual, and you almost see angels coming in, or whatever the heck they are, and they shoot through on the other side and see a new world, a new planet. But Dr. Reinhardt and all his cronies are stuck in the flames of hell, and he stands there merging with Maximilian as a evil god on top of the mountain. It's an ending that drives home the idea of good and evil and redemption and damnation. It's pretty existential and deep and weird for a Disney movie. Well, then there's the robots. We got to get to the robots. Yeah, we've got legions of purple-headed idiots, but we're really talking about the stars of the show. Vincent, Old Bob, and Maximilian. Vincent and Old Bob have this great, like, 1-2 relationship. They're both kind of from the same cloth. Seems like Old Bob is a beat-up version of Vincent, an older beat-up version of Vincent. Vincent is all slick and clean, and Old Bob looks like he's wearing a trash can lid as a helmet. But they fly around, talk to each other, help each other out. They got a great back and forth going between Roddy McDowall playing Vincent and Slim Pickens.
You sneaky little bastards ain't getting doodly shit out of me.
Yeah, that Slim Pickens. I think he had a contract with Disney or something at the time. Well, anyway, Roddy McDowall's Vincent and Slim Pickens' Old Bob just have great banter back and forth. Old Bob is able to show him all the horrors. He's the one that tells Vincent the humanoids are actually what's left of the crew, and leads Kate McRae through ESP to tell Dr. Durant, and then you know what happens from there. I love the interplay between Vincent and Old Bob, and they kind of show you that, like, teamwork and camaraderie and some of the best acting in the whole film is important for a movie.
You'll never be obsolete. Carry on the tradition. We're the best.
But finally,
Protect me from Maximilian.
the best part of this movie, the absolute most amazing part of this movie, in my humble opinion, is Maximilian, the evil red robot. He embodies the traits of any classic horror movie villain. He's got imposing presence, merciless actions, and he's eerily silent.
Must have made a wrong turn, Max.
Towering over the human characters with his dark, imposing frame and glowing red eyes, Maximilian exudes a sense of dread and unpredictability. Unlike more expressive villains, his lack of speech really kind of amps up the menace. His intentions are conveyed solely through his relentless, calculated movements. The first thing he does on screen is fly down and flip open the blades and start coming after the newcomers. That's the first thing he does. And only reluctantly does he listen to Dr. Reinhardt and put the blades away. But by the end of this film, the emotionless brute is leaving Dr. Reinhardt on the floor crying for help as he's being crushed by a damaged view screen. He is one of my top 5 movie villains of all time. So yeah, am I a bit of a fanboy about The Black Hole? Yeah, you bet I am. It's a flawed movie. The dialogue's silly, sure. The science is, well, not science. But the look of the movie, the sound of the movie, and the special effects and the robots and just the vibe is so unique and so special. You got to at least give it a try once. Just ignore the people when they're talking. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.